Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. Um, it's 11:21 and I'm pretty sleepy right now. And you know what's really cool about velocity banking? It's really not that hard of a strategy. Everybody just overcomplicates it. And so I'm pretty sure I could just kind of do this in my sleep. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I should be a little bit humble. It's okay. It's okay. Actually, I do like to flex, and you know how much I'd love to flex swimming in that cash flow, right? Paying off debt really, really early. This is my mortgage paid off in 2.5 years. I know some of you are sick and tired of hearing that. Oh, hey, some of you might use it as what you call it motivation. I can't even think right now because I'm really sleepy. And what is this? These are what we call the VB goats. Why the velocity banking goats? Because we're the greatest of all time when we pay off the debt quickly. Yep. You know what's funny? Before this velocity banking stuff, I had no idea how an amortized loan worked or even what a line of credit was. Cause I honestly thought like banks don't want you to like borrow cash directly. And I just didn't know that lines of credit even existed. I was like, oh, well, there's a reason why they make it so hard for you to get cash out of a credit card. And then when I realized that they literally have a product to take cash out of the bank that's very similar to a credit card, but not a credit card. My mind was blown, right? So let's get to it. What is velocity banking? All it is a debt payoff strategy where you use your line of credit, kind of like this, a home equity line of credit. I call this my infinity gauntlet, right? As your main operating account. So I have $280,000 in a home equity line of credit. So what does that mean? Is that I apply to the bank, I offer my home equity as collateral, and then I can use that money for whatever I want at a 7.5% interest rate. Okay. Now let's go ahead and do velocity banking. So what's the first step? The first step is actually creating a budget. And if you want to see me kind of do this from scratch of how I create a budget, it's relatively easy. Okay. So let me go ahead and restart all of this. And so what I do here is I kind of start backwards. What I mean is all I do is just list all the debts that I have in the expense breakdown whenever I need to create a new velocity banking scenario. So let's say I need a third credit card. So I'll say call this credit card 3, and then I'll say 10,000 at, I don't know, 30%. Because I figure realistically, you want to charge as much as you can into the lower interest rate credit cards. Actually, yeah. So if this is 26%, you want to charge 27,000. If it's 27%, you want to charge 15, and it's 30, it's 10, right? So how do I get the payment numbers? Well, you can just kind of use a easy formula where it's like 1% of the balance plus the interest of the balance divided by 12. So let me just kind of do this right here. So is this all three payments? I think it is. I think I actually did it accidentally. So all right, that's cool. That's cool. All right. So let me go ahead and copy these payments. So I'm just going to copy this. Control C, and then go right here, and not this one, control V, right? Just copy the values. And then, there's only so many types of debts that we can have. It's unlikely that a person will have more than one mortgage. They may have multiple student loans because I remember when I used to have student loans, I think I had technically had three, and I was too scared to look at them. You ever get too scared to look at your debt? Yeah, it's really scary, especially if you don't know what you're doing. And it's like, ugh, they're calling me because I'm late, and it's affecting my credit report, and I don't even know what's going on. I'll be honest. For the longest time, I think I just was when I went to college. I was just very angry that they didn't teach me anything, and I think pretty much, I'm pretty sure you heard this from other people. That's just by design, right? In fact, I don't think it's a coincidence that every single new generation um, that becomes an adult is creating these TikTok videos about how they're struggling. Is like, well, don't you see like the connection between struggling and not learning any of this stuff? But maybe not. And so right here, I don't know if you want to like create some auto loans. I'll just say 22%. And what's the new interest our interest rate auto loans these days? I remember I went to the Toyota dealership and they said they had like a 3.9% financing special, so we can use that. Student loan, mortgage, and yeah. So basically, I'm just gonna get the whatchamacallits loan payments. I just gotta do that, loan payments, right? And luckily we have this loan calculator right here where I just kind of fill it out, and 35,000 at 6 and 210,000 at 3%. And if you have these three inputs, right, you can auto spit a payment amount. I don't think a lot of people are aware of that. So I'm just gonna take these payment amounts, copy and paste them right here. And then based on, your lifestyle, you may have like a really cheap lifestyle, right? So I'm gonna be honest, I don't really spend a lot of money on too much things. I think my highest expense is probably food. And I like to go to whole paycheck Whole Foods because I'm a whole paycheck customer, right? I like to overpay a little bit on my food. So, it depends on you. I'm going to say $2,000, right? And so, what I do is I like to tally up the expenses. So, there's a sum function somewhere here. And then what you do is you just kind of start with the first row, B8. Is it B8? No, it's B8. I think in Spanish, the letter B and V are pronounced exactly the same. And then it's B14, all right? So just do that. And then what's our expenses? $5,370. And then I just kind of work backwards just to give myself a income with a little bit of room. So say, oh, $6,000. And what does the average American do? We pay our debts, and then we just kind of put the leftover in savings. And what we're going to do with Velocity Banking is exactly the same thing, except we're not going to have any savings. Okay. So that's like the first step, Velocity Banking. Just writing all of our budget, right? All of our debts, because it's a debt payoff strategy. So we're going to eliminate debt. We list every single one out, and that's simple, right? And then so now we're not gonna have any savings, and this is what I call our big boy pad. So, let's say like you're talking to your family members and you told them like, "Hey, I don't have any money in my checking or savings account." And you might say something like crazy like, "Hey, I will never save 3 to 6 months of savings when I'm paying off debt." They'd be like shocked. In fact, they probably don't have any money too, but they're shocked because they like the idea of having savings. So when you tell them something like that, they'll feel a little bit uncomfortable. Kind of weird how that works, right? But as you can see right here, I have no savings, nothing in my checking account, because when money comes in, it just goes into a line of credit. And that's kind of like the last step, which is you move some of your debt into a line of credit, put your entire paycheck in, expenses out, and you rinse and repeat over and over again. And your debt will be reduced by this thing called the cash flow. And so cash flow actually looks like savings in the very beginning, but it's not. Okay. So, because we got one more step to move the debt into the line of credit. And how do we know which debts to move? Usually it's the high interest rate debts, right? So, for example, the credit cards and also the short term buy now, pay later loans. I watched a video of a nurse saying, like, "I can't do the buy now, pay later." I was like, "What are you doing?" I've even seen people, like, who make over 10 grand do the buy now, pay later loans. I'm like, "What?" You know what I mean? Like, what's going on right here? And so let's go ahead and add this up. And so this will be 27, 15, 10,000. And how much is that in total? It's about 52,000. So let's move $52,000 of credit card debt into the line of credit, right? And so we do that, and then guess what happens here? Well, these all go to zero, 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 and oh my goodness, you see that? This is worthy of a dramatic close up, which is we literally went from $629 to of savings, and we said, no, let's get rid of the savings. We'll screw that. $0 of savings to $2,321.89 of cash flow, right? Easy. So now let's just go in here and do the math. And remember, for every month that we do this, we are the greatest of all time, hence the GOAT, right? Stick to it. You're going to have many goats in your life. And again, I don't even need to do this because I am the GOAT. I literally paid off my mortgage in 2 years and 9 months, right? A lot of times people hate on my videos and they just never mention this because I just stare at this all day to flex my ego. So it's, you know, I just love. It's like, whoa, is this even real? And sometimes, what's really crazy is that I feel like this isn't even real because it's just like, who pays off their mortgage in 2 years and 9 months? And the other funny part is, I've never been able to actually simulate this in any of the velocity banking spreadsheets, which is kind of funny. Anyways, whoopsie, I'm in the wrong one. So, all right. So here's what we do is we calculate the previous month's balance plus the previous month's interest to get the next month's balance, and then we subtract the cash flow. And so you just see this 2321.89 right here, right? So let's just go in here. Whoopsie. Whoopsie. Oh, why am I not dramatically okay? All right, so now, okay, so G2 plus H2 minus 2321.89. You see that? 232, that's our cash flow. And we're gonna dump our entire 6,000 in, expenses out, and then we're gonna talk about, well, we don't want the sum, we want the average daily balance. My bad. That's how we calculate the interest rate. But don't worry, the interest is not 50 grand. That'd be insane if it were. And a lot of people get confused by the 8%. So if I do 8%, that's the interest rate right here. People are like, whoa, I got to pay $4,000 a month. No, no, no. You just divide by 12. And that's it. See how easy that was? My goodness, that was so easy. We need a go for that because we are the greatest of all time. I'm the greatest of all time. I think Will Smith said that too. Didn't he say like I'm the greatest in a song Getting Jiggy with It? Doo, 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 doo. That was before he became, I don't know, is Will Smith still cool? I feel like after that slap, he kind of became uncool. And then I think people stopped caring. But yeah. So 25 goats. So 25 months. And then we are at 52K. All right. So now this is what we're going to do. And we're going to go to loan calculator and just figure out in month 25 how much the current balances are. And let's move this one. Whoopsie. Let me erase this. Let's move this 13 grand balance into the line of credit because we get so much more cash flow than paying off this 29 grand, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So, because here's the thing, if we, even though this 29 grand is at a higher interest rate, look how much, if we pay this off, we get $400 of cash flow. They call this the cash flow index. Really easy to figure out which debt you pay off. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and then I am going to move the auto debt, right? Move the auto debt into the line of credit. So let's go ahead and do that. It's crazy. Like I'm super sleepy and I probably won't remember what I did by tomorrow, but who knew that I would be a velocity banking guru? And people are like, you velocity banking gurus, and then it just goes down 1 year out the other to complain because I'm just gonna stare at my paid off mortgage in 2 years and 9 months so I can just flex again because that's just what I do, right? So just criticism 1 year out the other, and I don't even care. Oh man. Anyways. So let's go ahead and remove this and wait a minute, did I even update the cash flow? I didn't even update it. So this auto loan is now gone and our cash flow is almost at 3 grand, 2,726. Pretty sweet, right? So control V, and then we'll just do this, update our cash flow, 2726.06, technically oh 06 if you round it up. And then let's go ahead and figure out what our new auto loan payoff date is month 30. Well, that was pretty easy, right? So month 30 months, okay, and then so it's 30 months, 52 plus 30, which is 82K, right? And so now let's figure out what the balance of the student loan and the mortgage is, right? So this is going to be 30 months, right? So this is 30, 30. And so now these are our current low balances. Should we move all of them to line of credit? Probably not. Not the whole thing, right? Especially if you're dealing with a interest rate that's lower than the line of credit. Safest method is doing something called the Chung King. I think that's a movie from Hong Kong about police officers and lonely city life and something. Gotta watch it. I heard it's a good movie. Okay, I don't even know why I'm saying that. Okay, so what is it? It's just you just split the loan into pieces and just chop it up. That's all that means, right? So if we have a $28,000 loan, probably not a good idea to move the entire thing into line of credit because we don't get the entire like if we do, for the 6% loan, we get this itty bitty cash flow. Or not a good idea. Okay. I think that's what Tony Stark says too. Not a good idea. I don't even know. To be honest, I only like 3 Marvel movies. My first Marvel movie that I really was into was The Winter Soldier, and I was like, "Whoa, this is so good." And then I just assumed that all the other Marvel movies were just as good, and then when I realized they weren't, it was like a disappointment, right? It was a disappointment. Anyways, let me go back here, and I'm gonna go here. So 28 grand, and so now I am going to do this and just kind of move $6,000 of this loan. So it's now 22 and then just move it into a line of credit. And this is the basic idea of chunking is that you're just kind of chopping it up into little pieces and then paying it off over and over again with your cash flow. And why do we do that is so we can make it easy for us to pay off without even thinking so we don't do something called segregating our income. Because think about it, okay? The average person, if they have $2,726.06 in their savings account, do you think they're going to dump the entire thing into a student loan? Just use some common sense that they probably wouldn't, because if they did, um, everybody would have their student loan and mortgages paid off in record time because that's what velocity banking is, just dumping all your money into debt. And at a certain point, you don't even need a line of credit, but like with the mortgage, but if you do, yeah, you can use a mortgage, you can use the line of credit, right? And so let's go ahead and do the chunking method. But luckily, okay, I'm gonna say this. Oh, do I have both of these open? Oh my goodness, what am I doing? But luckily, we have this thing called that velocity banking calculator. So give me one moment to open it up. Okay, so we have the velocity banking calculator open here. So where did I get this from? I got this from Renatus, right? I got this from Renatus. This is where I originally learned velocity banking from, and I am a Renatus student. And not only that, I resell the Renatus education. So if you're interested, click the Google form link below. Feed me some commission. I love the money, even though I don't need it. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, like, some people are like, "Where do you get a line of credit?" It's like, you know how you get a line of credit is when you don't need money, and people have such a hard time understanding this because banks don't lend money to people who need it, right? I could say this in my sleep. In fact, I'm super sleepy. I'm super sleepy, and I know even in my sleep, banks don't lend money to people who need it, but the average person is like, "What? That makes no sense." And then it's like, "Well, that's why they have the tallest buildings in North America, and you don't, because they do the things that make the most money, not the things that make the most sense." All right, so now let's go ahead here, and what is our expenses? It's everything except for the loan we're trying to pay off, right? So we just do a sum here. And so it's 2885.37, right? So 2885.37, $6,000 of income, right? We'll just do a $6,000 chunk. You don't have to do a big chunk. To be honest, like the chunk size really, I think is irrelevant, to be honest. Like you could just do a small amount, right? You don't need to go big because the bigger you have it, the more interest you'll pretty much end up paying, unless the interest rate is exactly the same or higher than the line of credit. I mean, like you could even do this with the 0% loan. Yeah, you'll overpay, but every time I've shown it, it's like you overpay by what, $1,000, right? And so let's go ahead and put this in the calculator. So 2885.37, and this is a 10-year loan, and what's the payment? It's 388.57. 388. Yeah, 388.57. What's the interest rate? The interest rate is 6%, right? So 6%. And so what is the original balance, right? The original balance is somewhere here. Oh, 35 grand. Okay, 35,000. And 28,105 is the current balance. So 28,105.9. Oh, look at that, point 0.8 years. Have you ever heard of people like struggling with their student loan debt? Now that I know this, I was like, this is such a joke. Like this is such a joke. And I know that it gets worse when you have graduate degrees, right? Like a lawyer. Who else? Lawyer, doctor. But I probably would rather be a doctor than a lawyer. Actually, they're all pretty bad. In fact, um, if I just kind of do search on Reddit or YouTube, I see so many complaints about pretty much every single field out there. So, remember the movie Office Space? Work sucks. Yeah, I get it. I get it. All right, so now let's go ahead and let's go back here. So now just do this. So 30 divide the time plus point 8 times 12. And now this is, we just round to 40 months. Wablam, this is now 0. Wablam, pam, bat, pow, bam, Batman. Those sound effects from the 60s. That's what we're doing here. That's what all the goats do. 117K. And then now at 40 months, we just got to figure out the balance of the loan. And so now this is gone. All right, so now we just kind of plug in the numbers. We can do $6,000 chunks. And you want to know something? Okay, you want to know what's crazy? I'm going to show you something, and let me update my numbers. So it's 2,000. Okay, so let's say that you actually got a $210,000 loan at a 0% interest rate. Okay, I'm gonna show you this at a 0% interest rate. And what's the payment? If it's 0%, it's 583.33. So 583.33. Okay. Now, some people are like really freaking out. Oh my goodness, like this is the worst thing ever because you're using a higher interest rate, 8% line of credit to pay, whatever, right? And I get it. The interest rate, it matters, but it kind of doesn't. Because if I have the worst case scenario, meaning I have a no interest loan, meaning after 30 years the max I'll pay is 210, and I'm dumb enough to use an 8% line of credit to pay it off, what I'm talking about, the most I can overpay is like 1500, right? But okay, we have to be careful about first lien HELOCs because if I use the entire 210 and replace it with the line of credit, then I pay 50 grand, right? It's a huge difference. 1 grand, 50 grand, that's a big difference. That's why I say be careful about those first lien HELOCs, right? You got to be careful. A lot of people promote them. I don't know why they promote them. I don't think they did the math correctly, but they do promote them. And I'm like, ugh, remember I Love Lucy? She's like, ugh, right? That's a sign that you screwed up. That's the sign. All right, so now let's go ahead and just let me do these $6,000 chunks, right? So even if I do this in a 0% loan, the worst thing that can happen is $1,500. Pay a little bit more, right? So we do have to be careful a little bit with the interest rate, but not really, right? So okay. So now let me just do this. This is what was the interest rate here? It was 3%, right? So 885.37, 3%. And then I just got to do the current balance. So what's the current balance? It's 194,859.77. 194,859.77. And then now it's paid off in 4.4 years, debt free. I'm good. I'm celebrating because I'm the GOAT. And let me kind of confirm my GOAT status here. So this was, what was it, 4.4 years? Do you know anybody who paid off their mortgage in 4.4 years? I literally don't know anybody. And in fact, 7.73 years debt. Whoopsie, I'm screwing up. Debt paid off. A lot of times people tell me, and I have to say this over. Look at all these goats. Oh my goodness, these greatest of all times. Okay, let me just kind of copy and paste these emojis. And these little emojis remind me of like the Apple II computers back in the day when you played Oregon Trail and you had your little ox carrying the whatchamacallit, the I forget what it's called, the carriage, ox carriage. That's kind of what they kinda remind me of, but this is a representation that we are the greatest of all time. I'm the GOAT, right? I am the GOAT, greatest of all time. Alright, so now, since, this is all paid out, I just wanna make a final comment before I go to sleep. Some people are like, you know, the things that you're talking about are totally unrealistic. And I want to say that's totally true. Like, if I talk about my mortgage that I paid off in 2 years and 9 months, you want to know something? I've never been able to get it into the calculator to show I've been able to pay this off in 2 years and 9 months. Never. Especially when I'm just doing someone's personal situation. Never been able to do that. So it's totally unrealistic. But you know what? 4.4 years, is that realistic? I can't even believe it when I see it. Like 4.4 years. Who pays that much in you know, who pays off their mortgage that quick? I don't know. And yeah. It's crazy. This velocity banking strategy, it's a game changer. Especially if you ever seen it with rental properties. It's like I can't even believe that not every, like, rental property owner is not doing this. Like, it's insane how, like, so many rental property owners just take out the equity to get more debt, so take on more rental properties, and which means more stress. I'm like, "I'm not gonna do this with more rental I'm just get 1, 2, or 3." 3 paid off rental properties, I'm literally a millionaire, pretty much, right? Well, at least in equity, I am. Okay. All right. Well, that's it for today, everybody. This is Cam, Korean Atlanta mentorship. So I am quite sleepy right now, and I'm pretty much not going to remember what I did by tomorrow. So you could kind of say that this is so easy. I just do this in my sleep, right? Little flex there. All right. Well, that's it, everybody. This is Korean Atlanta mentorship. Have a great night.